An engagement is treated as if it only happens once. Funerals? They can wait, my cousin scoffed as she brushed past me the night before. Her words sliced through me like broken glass. And the worst part? She wasn't the only one who felt that way. Hello everyone, my name is Clara Rowan. And on the morning I laid my husband to rest, the man who carried me through every storm, my entire family was busy celebrating my sister Celine's engagement instead. Not a parent. Not my so-called best friend. Not even one sibling. I remember standing at the church doors, staring at the rows of empty seats, my hands trembling against the polished wood of his coffin. The silence was unbearable, broken only by the pastor's voice and the rattle of stained glass against the wind. Inside, I kept whispering to myself, maybe they'll come. Maybe someone will walk in late but ashamed. But each minute passed, a cruel reminder that I was utterly alone. Deliberately abandoned. As the casket sank into the ground, the earth swallowing the last part of him, I gripped the folded funeral program until it tore between my fingers. My vision blurred with tears, but my body refused to collapse. I had to remain upright, because no one else was there to hold me up. That's when my phone lit up. A single message burning against the dark screen. We need to talk. Now. Then, 36 missed calls. Her timing was vicious. Her absence was louder than thunder. In that moment, something inside me shifted forever. Grief and betrayal fused, turning into something cold, sharp, and unbreakable. I looked at the hole in the ground, then at the phone in my palm. The cruel irony wrapped around me like smoke. While I buried love, they toasted champagne and diamonds. And as the dirt began to cover the casket, I whispered one vow into the air chilled with loss: they had chosen their side. And soon they would learn what it meant to lose everything they took for granted. I didn't answer a single call. Not one. The phone buzzed, vibrating like a trapped insect in my purse, but I left it to die in silence. The burial ended with shallow condolences from strangers, neighbors, a few of his colleagues, faces I barely recognized. They patted my shoulder, murmured empty words, then disappeared into their cars. No family. No warmth. Just shadows leaving me behind. When the last shovel of dirt fell onto the grave, I stood frozen. My legs threatened to buckle, but my heart had already done that hours earlier. And then the truth struck me like lightning. I had no one. At least not in the family that pretended to love me. I walked to my car, the world around me blurred by grief and disbelief. The laughter from across town at the engagement party seemed to poison the air I breathed. I could almost hear Celine's giggle, my mother's proud voice, my father's toast. They hadn't just skipped his funeral. They had chosen her joy over my devastation. Sitting in the driver's seat, I finally unlocked my phone. The messages glared back at me. We need to talk. Now. Call me immediately. This isn't what you think. Pick up. And one from my best friend. Sorry, Clara. I couldn't miss it. You understand, right? Understand? My chest burned. How could I understand that the very people who should have held me upright on the darkest day of my life were clinking glasses beneath fairy lights instead? I leaned back against the headrest, staring at the heavy gray sky. Betrayal weighed on me harder than grief. And beneath it all, rage began to bloom. I whispered to the silence inside my car, more to myself than anyone, if this has ever happened to you, you'd know. Because deep down, I knew I wasn't the only one abandoned when it mattered most. But unlike the others, I wouldn't leave it there. I would let the silence grow. Let them panic at my unanswered calls. Let them sweat in their gowns and tuxedos, wondering why I hadn't replied. I wouldn't chase them. I would wait. And when they came crawling, because they would, I'd be ready with something colder than grief. A plan. The next morning, the doorbell rang. Not once. Not twice. But again and again, until the sound carved into my skull. When I opened the door, there she was. My mother. Dressed in the same silk gown she had worn to Celine's engagement party. I could still smell champagne, perfume, and laughter clinging to her skin. Her hair was pinned perfectly, untouched by grief. "Clara, we need to talk," she said, her voice clipped and rehearsed, almost businesslike. I didn't move. I simply stared, my hand gripping the doorframe as if it were the only thing keeping me standing. "You missed his funeral," I whispered, my voice breaking. She blinked, irritated. "Sweetheart, it was bad timing. Your sister's engagement was important. A once-in-a-lifetime event. You'll understand one day." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Important?" "Champagne and cake weighed more than burying the man who loved me better than this entire family ever has?" Her face hardened. "Don't be dramatic. Life goes on. Dwelling on death won't change anything." My heart crumbled. The woman who gave me life couldn't even meet my eyes as she dismissed my loss. And still, beneath her words, I caught something else, not guilt, but fear. Then she said it. The words that twisted my grief into something darker. "Clara, listen carefully. We need to settle some matters now that he's gone. You have responsibilities, and frankly, certain assets shouldn't stay in your hands alone." Her eyes slid past me, scanning my hallway. She wasn't here for me. She wasn't here for him. She was here for what he had left behind. My nails dug into the doorframe. Silence stretched between us like a wire ready to snap. Finally, I stepped aside, voice steady. "Come in, Mom," I said. "Let's talk." She exhaled in relief, mistaking my calm for surrender. But inside, I was already miles ahead. If she thought I would roll over and let them strip me bare after abandoning me, then she didn't know the daughter she had raised. This wasn't grief anymore. This was war. The living room still smelled faintly of lilies from the funeral arrangements, their petals already wilting. My mother sat on the sofa, her silk gown rustling as she crossed her legs, acting as if it were a business meeting. "Clara," she began, her tone stiff. "You're young. You don't understand how the world works. Your husband, God rest him, left assets. The house, savings, even company shares. It isn't wise for you to manage that alone. Your father and I believe it should all be redistributed." The word hit me like a slap. Redistributed. I watched her sip the glass of water I offered, as if entitled to every drop in my home. Redistributed to who? I asked, though I already knew. To Celine, of course. She's beginning her life with Adrian. She'll need support. You'll be fine. You're strong. Strong. That word had always been their excuse. Strong meant I didn't need care. Strong meant I didn't deserve compassion. Strong meant they could strip me bare and I'd smile through it. But not anymore. I leaned back in my chair, eyes fixed on her. "So you skipped my husband's funeral to raise a glass at her engagement. And now you're here to take his legacy too?" She shifted, but her chin lifted in defiance. "Don't twist this. It's family duty. Celine deserves the best. Don't be selfish, Clara." Selfish. Another blade. My fingers dug into the armrest, but my voice stayed calm, eerily calm. "You think I'm selfish because I won't hand over what my husband worked for with his own hands? You think grief makes me weak?" Her eyes narrowed, certain she had cornered me. She mistook my stillness for hesitation. But inside, something colder was forming, ice around a heart already shattered. Their betrayal at the funeral had severed what little bond remained. Her greed now hammered the final nail into that coffin. I rose from my chair slowly, each movement deliberate. "I'll think about it," I said, my tone polite, even warm. Relief flooded her face instantly. She touched my arm lightly as she stood. "Good girl. I knew you'd come around." I walked her to the door, watching her leave with that smug smile. The moment the door clicked shut, I whispered into the silence. Not a chance. They had abandoned me when I needed them most. Now I would show them what abandonment truly meant. The second her car disappeared, I sat at the dining table, letting the silence settle. My husband's photo gazed at me from the mantel. His steady eyes, his smile frozen in time. "I won't let them erase you," I whispered. "Not like this." Grief had broken me, but betrayal sharpened me. And if my family thought they could rob me of what little I had left, they were about to meet someone they'd never seen before. That night, I opened the lockbox he had always kept hidden in the study. Inside were neatly stacked documents, the will, the deed, the business contracts. He had left everything to me. Everything. Not a single mention of my family. It was all mine, his final act of trust. And with that trust came duty. I wouldn't let his legacy be swallowed by greed. The next morning, I made my first call. Not to my mother. Not to Celine. But to our lawyer, Mr. Daniels. His voice was calm, deliberate, a touch surprised when I explained what had happened. "Clara," he said, "your husband's wishes were crystal clear. No one can contest this easily. But if your family tries, you'll need to be prepared." Prepared. The word rang in my ears. The following day, I walked into his office, the documents tucked neatly in my bag. Together we combed through every clause, every signature. Quiet. Precise. A plan took shape. No yelling. No confrontation. The law itself would be my shield. Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Missed calls. Texts. Voicemails. My father's voice dripped with authority, "You're being childish. Call your mother back." My sister's messages oozed with arrogance, "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You'll thank us one day." But the one that froze the air came late at night from an unknown number: "Sign the papers or you'll regret it." I stared at that message until the screen dimmed. My pulse didn't race, it steadied. They thought fear would break me. But fear had died the day I stood alone at his grave. I wasn't afraid anymore. If they wanted war, they would have it. But my revenge would be quiet. And it would leave them hollow. It was a Sunday evening when they arrived. All of them. My mother. My father. Celine, flashing her new ring. Even my so-called best friend trailing behind like a shadow. They didn't knock. They pounded, demanding, not asking. The moment I opened the door, the atmosphere shifted. My mother marched in first, her eyes sweeping the house like it already belonged to her. My father followed, jaw set like stone. Celine smiled smugly, sinking into the sofa without invitation. "Clara," my father began, "this has gone far enough. You've ignored our calls, our messages. You're acting irrational. We're here to settle this now." I stood by the window, the fading light cutting long shadows across the room. "Settle what?" My tone was casual, unshaken. "The assets," my mother snapped. "Your sister deserves her share. She's starting a new life. You don't need it all, and holding on to it makes you look bitter." Bitter. The word stung, but I didn't flinch. I let the silence drag until it pressed against them like weight. Finally, Celine leaned forward, her voice sugar-coated and cruel. "Come on, Clara. He's gone. You don't need these things to remember him. Let us handle it." I met her gaze. "You want me to hand over everything my husband entrusted to me? Everything he built?" She smirked. Don't make it sound ugly. We just want what's fair. Fair. The word twisted like a blade. Where was fairness when I stood alone at his grave? Where was fairness when they toasted champagne instead of mourning? I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I simply walked to the mantel, lifted his framed photo, and held it close to my chest. Then I turned, my voice soft but cutting. You left me alone when I needed you most. You abandoned him when he deserved your respect. And now, you'll know what abandonment feels like. Their faces shifted, confusion, then irritation, then the first flicker of fear. I gave them nothing more. I opened the door wide and gestured out. Leave. The next time we talk, it won't be here. It'll be in a place where truth is inked and sealed by law. My father's voice thundered. Don't test us, Clara. I met his stare, clutching the photo tighter. I already have. They stormed out, the slam of the door shaking the frame. And in the silence that followed, a faint smile touched my lips. Because they didn't know every document had already been fortified. Every step of theirs anticipated. They thought they were circling me. But in truth, I had already built the cage. The next morning, the letters went out. Heavy cream envelopes, embossed with the seal of Mr. Daniel's law office. One to my parents. One to Celine. One even to the friend who betrayed me. Inside was the truth written plainly, my husband's will. The house. The savings. The company shares. Every line sealed by his hand. And not a single one of them had a claim. All of it left to me alone. His words were clear as daylight, impossible to contest without revealing themselves as nothing more than greedy opportunists. By noon the storm began. My phone buzzed without pause, angry messages, desperate voicemails. My father's voice thundered with rage. How dare you humiliate this family with lawyers? We could have handled this privately. My mother wept into the phone, her sobs as theatrical as ever. You don't understand what you're doing, Clara. You're tearing us apart. And Celine, oh, her words were venom wrapped in honey, you'll regret this. When you have no one left, don't come crawling back. Enjoy your empty house. I listened to them all in silence. Not replying. Not defending. Just letting their desperation echo back like a mirror. By midweek, things escalated. My mother stormed into Mr. Daniel's office, creating such a scene that the secretary later described it in hushed tones like gossip from a scandal sheet. My father tried intimidation, growling about family honor. Celine flaunted Adrian's family wealth as if it could bend the law in her favor. But none of it mattered. Every strike collided with the unshakable truth of the will. My husband had entrusted everything to me. Permanently. Untouchably. And the irony? With every desperate move, they exposed themselves, to neighbors, to friends, to the very community that once admired them. Whispers spread like wildfire. Their obsession with what wasn't theirs tarnished their perfect image. Meanwhile, I remained silent. Composed. Not the bitter widow they painted, but the wronged daughter standing firm with dignity. Silence was not weakness. Silence was my blade. And as their reputations unraveled, as their cries grew louder, I realized something exquisite: they had already lost. They just hadn't seen the ruins yet. The breaking point came at Celine's wedding rehearsal. I wasn't invited, of course. But in a town like ours, news has wings. The caterer backed out. The florist withdrew. The venue demanded cash up front, unwilling to trust their name. And then the cruelest twist of fate, the engagement funds my parents promised her? Frozen. Because the savings they planned to redistribute were locked away in accounts only I controlled. That night, while fairy lights dimmed over a stripped-down rehearsal, my phone rang again. Not with rage. Not with threats. But with a trembling voice. My mother's. Clara, she whispered, breath uneven. Please. They're all looking at us differently now. We need your help. I sat at the kitchen table, the will spread before me, my husband's steady signature like iron on paper. For a moment, I closed my eyes, remembering the grave, the empty pews, the casket lowered without them. Then I smiled, a calm, deliberate smile. I needed you once, too, Mom, I said softly. And you chose champagne over compassion. Now you'll learn what that choice costs. Her sob cracked through the line, but I didn't linger. I ended the call with the same cold finality they had given me on the day of the funeral. Days later, the wedding still happened. But stripped, diminished, a hollow echo of what they had planned. Guests whispered about the missing luxuries, about greed that had rotted the celebration from within. Celine, draped in her gown, wore not triumph but shame. As for me, I wasn't there. I spent that day at the cemetery, laying fresh lilies at my husband's grave. I told him everything. How silence had been my weapon, how dignity had been my shield, how betrayal had undone itself without me ever needing to scream. The wind moved gently through the trees, as though he was listening. And in that moment, I knew with certainty. They had abandoned me. But I had buried them too. Not in earth, not in stone, but in the truth of their own choices. And nothing, no apology, no regret, could ever dig them out again.